Hey guys, Brendon from Dynamic here. Today I just wanted to touch a little bit on the contraceptive pill and just sort of a different perspective to sort of take in mind if you're sort of taking that into consideration, or if you're on contraception, or not only the pill, but contraception in general at the moment. Yeah, just kind of a different way to sort of look at it. Obviously, this isn't medical advice at all. This is just sort of my opinion from dealing with a lot of sort of different bodies, and yeah, just sort of seeing how it can affect an individual, and in the same sort of regards, like not so much going on it but coming off it as well, sort of issues that can sort of come up and that type of thing. So with long-term health, I think it's really important to take into consideration, like a lot of ladies and even young girls these days are being put on contraception and that type of thing to rebalance the body. Obviously birth control, which is massive, you need to be safe, all that type of thing, so that's cool. But what we need to take into consideration is that the contraception is what we call an exogenous hormone. So it's an external source of estrogen that is getting introduced into your body. Now, your body creates endogenous or internal estrogen, obviously, because that's how it's all set up. But sort of what happens here is when we bring in an external source, it's a very strong source of estrogen, and what that tends to do is that will shut down your natural production of estrogen. Okay, so what happens is the brain senses the elevation of the hormone in the blood, and then basically it'll decrease the production of your natural hormone to find that balance. And the thing is with the body is it's not going to waste resources creating its own if there's an external source in abundance being put in. So that's very interesting. That's very important to sort of take note of. Now, the perspective I want to throw on it is if we look at it like this. With a male, okay, so a male produces their own natural testosterone. Now, when a male uses steroids or anabolic steroids, which is an external source of testosterone, that comes into the body and that shuts down that natural production. So if you look at it sort of that way, there's not really a lot of difference between what's going on. So external estrogen, internal estrogen, external testosterone, internal testosterone. Okay, now what happens here too is that the same thing applies, is that external source is coming in and it's shutting off that natural production. Okay, now the difference is that obviously it depends on when you get sort of put on contraception and that type of thing. That plays a major role. But what happens here is generally for a male, they're growing up, they're going through puberty, all their testosterone's doing its thing, they're getting there, and then they go and choose to go down these pathways and take this external source to build more muscle and burn more fat and all that type of stuff. Okay, often what's happening these days is with rebalancing hormones is that as a young female sort of gets a little bit of out of whack, she's getting put on this contraception, and now the issue there is that she hasn't actually her body hasn't learnt how to naturally produce those hormones, and she hasn't got that set point, okay, to return to when she comes off that external source. Now, we're seeing a lot of this at the moment, is where a female's been on contraception since she was 12 or 13 because everything was kind of out of whack. 10 to 15 years later, she's struggling with weight loss. She can't build muscle, thyroid, sap, metabolism's very slow, and all that type of thing. And what happens is that coming off, that natural production isn't returning, sometimes for years, okay? And then you're dealing with a bit of a shit mess of hormones, of what's going on. Everything's out of whack, and it's taking a long time for these people to sort of come right, because essentially their body has to relearn a natural production pathway, or it has to relearn something that it's never had a chance to learn in the first place. So this creates a whole host of issues with hormone management, weight issues, just health and wellness. So it's something to sort of really be aware of, because we understand that really clearly when anyone brings up, oh, steroids and this person's taking that and it shuts this down. For males, however, something so common as being put on prescription, contraception is taken very lightly, and it's something that we sort of don't really pay enough attention to, and or sort of understand the full, what's the word for it, like the full sort of or the repercussions of what could essentially happen in the long term. So yeah, just sort of make sure you do your research and really take into consideration what you're taking. When any prescription medicines, like if you prescribe something, like research it, look into it, see what sort of goes, see what the side effects are, see what sort of things can happen to your body long term, in our opinion, always seek a more natural route before you sort of go down that, that sort of take that next sort of step and go down that sort of pathway. Often with a lot of these prescription medicines these days, they sort of, it's kind of like a band-aid on the problem rather than getting to the root of the cause. And I'm not saying that they're not useful, because, sometimes they're very necessary, but just sort of do your research, be educated, and, make informed decisions. Cool, guys. That's all. And if you got any questions or anything like that, jump on our website, dynamicnutrition.co.nz. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and we're always here to help. Cheers.